Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. Good to have you here on a Friday. It's good to be on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on said Friday?
I'm happy it's Friday.
You know, it's going to be a good day. We have a massive show planned for you guys today. My top 10 list. We got Thursday night football. We got the Josh McDaniels firing, which we'll get into in a couple minutes here. We have a pretty stacked show, so stay tuned. We also got our picks, of course. We got a Germany game, an out-of-country game once again. So we got a lot to break down for the show. I'm going to ask you before I jump into my top 10 list. I'm going to ask, what game do you think personally you're the most excited for this weekend?
I think the one on Sunday morning, the Germany game. The Dolphins and the Chiefs. I think that's going to be a great game.
Dolphins-Chiefs, okay.
Yeah, I like that one. There's some great games this weekend. The Cowboys-Eagles is going to be a good one, too.
Absolutely.
We get to watch both of them.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a hell of a weekend. But I think it's time to jump into my top 10 list. Now, I do this about 4 or 5 times a year going into the season, then about a quarter of the way through the season, then we do about half the season, then 3 quarters, and then right before the playoffs, and then heading into next season, I do the last top 10 list. So it's actually about 5-6 times a year I do a top 10 quarterback list, and this time is no different. This is the week, heading into week 9. These are my top 10 quarterbacks. Now, last time, we had a few pieces that people didn't exactly enjoy, but I think that was honestly probably one of my best lists I've ever made. We had Brock Purdy. I think he was at number 3. We had Mahomes, I think, at number 5. We had a lot of moving pieces. Baker Mayfield was in the top 10 list back then. C.J. Stroud at number 9. There's a lot of pieces that have moved. However, things have changed drastically in like the past 5-6 weeks. So let's jump into it with our number 10 quarterback.
Number 10.
So this time I got Brock Purdy. He's dropped pretty significantly. I believe he might have been number 4, and now he is number 10. So we talked about the offense versus defense for the 49ers, right? Offensively, for the first 5 games, they scored 33.4 points a game, and in the last 3, they scored 17. They are having their points in every single of those last 3 losses. Defensively, it's not a drastic change, but it is a decent change. Defensively, they've only given up 3.6 points in the first 5 games. In the last 3 during that losing season, 24 points a game. However, 24 points is not something that is very hard to overcome if you have a team like the 49ers do. Instead, Brock Purdy, late in the game, cannot come back, and right when he's trailing, he's actually a pretty bad quarterback. However, because he started off this season so well, he's 9th in passing yards still. He's tied for 9th in passing touchdowns. He's tied for 6th in big-time throws. This is what's crazy. He's still 1st in yards per attempt and 2nd in passer rating. You should not be ringing the alarm bell for Brock Purdy maybe losing his job. But as of right now, he's dropped a little bit. He's still in the top 10 list because just the numbers say he's still a top 10 quarterback. But if you score 17 points a game when you're scoring 33.4 before, I'd be a little bit wary. So he's my number 10 quarterback.
Number 9.
Number 9. We're going to Joe Burrow. He didn't even make the top 10 list. He was my number 1 quarterback heading into the year. So what we saw just last week, he tore through that 49ers defense, and after a slow start, he was getting healthier. We're seeing a much better quarterback that the Cincinnati Bengals have. Against the Niners, Joe Burrow threw 9 passes of at least 10 air yards, completing 8 of them and scoring 2 touchdowns on those 9 passes. The most significant difference that we've seen in Joe Burrow over the past few games, he's playing much quicker, getting the ball out much faster, and not only that, he's actually running the ball. He has confidence in himself, using his legs to gain yards, and so a healthy Joe Burrow is a phenomenal Joe Burrow, and we're seeing that right now. Now he's going up against the Buffalo Bills. Spoiler alert, I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning that game because I feel like Joe Burrow is easily going to be at the top of the AFC when the regular season comes to a close, and right now, I think he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. He's at my number 9 spot.
Number 8.
Number 8, I got Jared Goff. Now, he took a little bit of a hit. I believe he was around that 7 range, if I'm not mistaken. But currently, Jared Goff is my number 8 quarterback. He's 4th in passing yards, tied for 9th in passing touchdowns. He's 9th in passer rating. He's tied for the 3rd highest graded passer, according to Pro Football Focus. He's 2nd in percentage of on-target throws, so he's incredibly accurate. And he has one of the lowest turnover-worthy percentages so far this season. Now, I understand. He absolutely got shell-shocked by the Ravens defense in that pass rush. But then he has a bounce-back game against the Raiders, and he had one very bad pick six. I understand that. But so far this season, he's been playing very, very well, and he is my number 8 quarterback. Next, number 7.
Number 7.
We got Trevor Lawrence. He also was not a part of my top 10 list back heading into week 4, but this time he will be. After after another slow start to another season, the Jaguars seem to be back on track. He is the 7th highest passer. He's the 7th highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. He's 5th in big time throws. We saw what Will Levis did with that Steelers pass rush. It didn't work out that well. Trevor Lawrence took care of that Steelers pass rush. He outplayed Josh Allen and the Bills. And if it weren't for the red zone drops and just failures in the red zone against the Chiefs, they would have also beaten the Chiefs. The Jaguars look to be back on track. I think they're going to put up big numbers heading into the second half of the year because we're about to hit the midway point of the season, week 9. I think the Jaguars are heading towards something good. I think they're one of the top teams in the AFC. Trevor Lawrence is my number 7 quarterback.
Number 6.
Now, I'm going to say this right now. Number 6 would have been reserved for Kirk Cousins. That would have been the number 6 pick for me. However, he's injured. He tore his Achilles, so I can't really say anything about that. But the number 6 quarterback for me is Justin Herbert. He's 6th in passing touchdowns, 6th in passer rating, 8th in completion percentage. He lost his number 2 wide receiver in Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston's not quite there yet, so I'm not going to say that he's a perfect solidified piece. The Chargers don't run the ball particularly well. I think in this past game that the Chargers played, I had Austin Eckler rushing for 60 yards. He ran for like 25 or something like that. He didn't even run for 60 yards. Now, Austin Eckler, everyone's telling me Austin Eckler is such a great running back. Yeah, maybe receiving-wise, but also Justin Herbert, I'm going to say this again for another set of the top 10 lists. He's keeping the Chargers alive. If it weren't for Justin Herbert, the defense is so cataclysmically bad that Brandon Staley coaches. I think he should be fired for that. But because the defense is so bad, it's up to Justin Herbert to perform very well. And yes, they did get absolutely crushed by the Chiefs. They had zero answers for that. But for the first half or so, that game was very, very competitive. The Chiefs scored, then the Chargers scored, then the Chiefs scored, then the Chargers score. And then the second half, and it's a very difference of quarterbacks, difference of defensive schemes. It was pretty bad in that second half, but I think Justin Herbert still deserves his flowers. He's my number 6 quarterback.
Number 5.
Now, this is another quarterback that did not make my top 10 list last time, and it's Jalen Hurts at number 5. He's 4th in yards per attempt, 3rd in big-time throws. As a runner, he's 1st in touchdowns. Could you claim that to the brotherly shove / the tush push? You may. He's 2nd in rushing yards. Now, going back to a passer, he's 6th in passing touchdowns and 7th in passing yards. I think, personally, he could be a little bit better with the talent he has. He has Devontae Smith. He has Dallas Goedert. He has A.J. Brown. You have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. You got a lot of pieces to deal with. And also, you probably have the second or the first best offensive line, depending on where you look. So, Jalen Hurts right now, he's a top 5 quarterback. He's performing very well. I got nervous in that Commanders game because once again, they were down. And you know what? In the second half, Jalen Hurts took over. He saved that game for the Eagles. It was a phenomenal performance. I got Jalen Hurts at my number 5 spot.
Number 4.
Number 4, I got Patrick Mahomes. This is actually an upgrade. Now, I understand. I'll say this up front. He's not a top 10 quarterback. When you play that poorly against the Broncos, I don't care what website you look at for top 10 quarterbacks. I don't care where you look. If you lose to the Broncos and you play that poorly, you're not a top 3 quarterback in the league. Now, he actually, I believe, increases 1 spot to the number 4 spot. I think that's strictly just because I dropped Brock Purdy so far down. Mahomes this year is 3rd in passing yards, 5th in passing touchdowns, he's the 6th highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. Now, after taking care of the Chargers, it honestly looked like he fell off a cliff against that Broncos game. He had 3 total turnovers, and that was the first time since December 5th, 2021, in the regular season that he did not throw a touchdown pass. Funny enough, it was against the Broncos as well back in December. He's 9th in completion percentage, but here's a shocker, I think. He's tied for 2nd in interceptions, but I will give him this. If you're at 3rd and 14 and you need a first down late in the game, leave it to Mahomes' legs to get you that first down. Because he doesn't run a lot, and he's not a primary runner like Jalen Hurts or like Justin Fields or like Lamar Jackson, any one of these mobile quarterbacks. However, when he needs to use his legs, he will, and I think he's probably one of the highest success rates at the quarterback position running the football. So I got to give it to Mahomes. He is my number 4 quarterback. Number 3.
Number 3.
I got Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I believe, remains in the 3rd spot. because you know what? He's bounced back from his early woes, I think. He's first in completion percentage. He's the second highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. He's third in passing touchdowns, fifth in passing yards, fifth in passer rating. He's tied for second in rushing touchdowns with Lamar Jackson. But I do have a problem with his turnovers. Recently, without Brian Daboll, he has gotten more turnover prone, and especially in the red zone last season, where he led the entire league in red zone interceptions. Now he's toned it down a little bit. However, he's still pretty high on the turnovers. And something else that I'm a little bit scared of is that the Bills rely very heavily on Josh Allen. Maybe a little bit less so with James Cook performing as well as he has so far this season. But Josh Allen is still a huge part of this offense. There's not really that much, play action and running the football a lot. It's a lot of Josh Allen or bust. I'm a little bit scared of that. But Josh Allen has performed pretty well this season so far. He is my number 3 quarterback. We're flying through this top 10 list. Let's go with number two. I got Lamar Jackson. He is my number 2 quarterback. He's tied for the third highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. He's third in yards per attempt, third in completion percentage. I gotta give it to Todd Monken in this offense. He has changed the way that this Ravens offense has looked, and even he's changed how Lamar Jackson looked, and he's changed Lamar's game, and I think it's for the better. Up to week 9 so far this season, right? We talked about how he's tied for the third highest graded passer. In the past, basically throughout Lamar's career, up to week 9, this was his passing grades so far throughout his career. In 2022, he was the 18th highest. In 2021, he was the 12th. In 2020, he was the 17th. In 2019, that unanimous MVP season, he was 15th. So what we've seen so far from Lamar is his passing game and his passing grades have skyrocketed all the way into the top 3 compared to being bottom or average to below average in passing grades throughout the rest of his career. So I'll give credit to Todd Monken. I'll give credit to Lamar Jackson developing his game to become more of a passer, which was one of my concerns. I got to give it to Lamar. And by the way, obviously I could say this, running, he's still probably one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant quarterback runner. He's first in QB rushing yards and tied for second in rushing touchdowns. He has the most amount of 10-plus yard runs for a quarterback. So, I think you don't really need to say it, but yes, Lamar is the best runner as a quarterback in the NFL. And finally, to wrap up the list, my number 1 quarterback is Tua Tagovailoa. He's still the highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. He's first in big-time throws, first in passing yards, first in touchdowns, first in passer rating. He's second in yards per attempt. He's fourth in completion percentage. He's fifth in ESPN's total QBR. He's currently leading the number 1 offense in the NFL. He has Tyreek Hill. He has Jalen Waddle. He has David Achane. He's got Raheem Mostert. He's got a bunch of weapons. They're one of the only teams. I think they broke a record for through, I think, was it 6 games, 7 games, of having 15-plus touchdowns passing and 15-plus touchdowns running. So they are literally the most dynamic offense, the motion offense. We saw it against the Patriots, especially that last touchdown that Jalen Waddle at the end of that game. Jack Jones and I think Jonathan Jones, there was no communication. Jalen Waddle just goes up the seam for probably the easiest touchdown he's ever had in his career. This offense is brand new, I think, or at least Mike McDaniel has his own spin on it that is really changing the way that I think defensive coordinators and defensive schemers are trying to figure out this Dolphins offense. I think it's very, very difficult, but I think Tua is my number 1 quarterback, and that is my list going down again. Tua 1, Lamar 2, Josh Allen 3, Mahomes 4, Jalen Hurts 5, Justin Herbert 6, Trevor Lawrence 7, Goff 8, Burrow 9, and Brock Purdy 10. I want to know, what do you think of my top 10 quarterback list?
I think it's reasonably accurate. I don't have many issues with it. I think it's
many. So you do have some issues.
Well, I might swap Herbert. I might drop him down a little bit.
Where would you put him on this list?
I think I might put Goff ahead of Herbert.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Goff looks good. I'm against the Raiders, man. He was picking them apart. He's got laser throw there, and he's got a great running back there too with that new guy, the rookie.
Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he looked very good. The Lions look good. Yeah, they got creamed by Lamar and the Ravens a couple of weeks ago, but I on that Thursday night game, I thought Goff looked really good. So yeah. I would swap that one.
Fair.
I think the rest of them look pretty good. All I know about Josh Allen though. I mean, he's got good stats, but he's made some big mistakes. You know,
I might disagree with his mistakes.
I might Might put Hurts ahead of him.
Hurts, okay.
Yeah.
So would you put Hurts ahead of Mahomes, and would you swap those two? Swap Hurts and Allen.
I think Mahomes is great. He hasn't played great this year so far, really.
I tried to.
The
find
record
it.
is good. I mean,
Yeah,
he was sick
obviously.
last week. You got to give him that. He was out there with.
He
the
said he
flu.
was fine. He said
Yeah,
he was
well,
fine.
he's going to say that. He's always going to say that. He wants to get out there and play, but I bet he wasn't feeling very well.
Well,
So
you,
we'll see
you're
what he
out
does
there,
on Sunday.
you gotta perform.
I'm picking him on Sunday. We'll see. Generally, I like your picks. I think they're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Here's the thing. This top 10 list, I send it now through a committee. I make
I think
sure
those
I'm
are
not
the
out of
top
my
10.
mind.
I think those are the top 10. I don't think of another quarterback below 10 that I would put in the top 10 right now.
Okay. Now, here's my problem. I don't think right now Brock Purdy wouldn't have made it if Kirk Cousins was healthy.
Yeah.
That's what I would have put probably Herbert at 7 and move everyone from 6 down to putting Kirk Cousins at 6. So that would mean that Burrow's 10, Goff 9,
Yeah.
Lawrence 8, Herbert 7.
It's a
have
shame
Kirk
Cousins got hurt.
Oh man, he's playing phenomenally, and also
Plus, he's playing for a contract.
reportedly Justin Jefferson wants him back in the building next year. Which I mean, based on the way he's played this season, I mean, we could rip on him for his outside 1 o'clock games. This season was phenomenal, and right now so far we're not gonna be able to see it, but in prime time, Kirk Cousins threw for nearly 400 yards against the 49ers.
Yeah.
So that storyline
Without Justin
right there,
Jefferson.
Without Justin Jefferson. So that storyline right there, there was a little chink in that armor, at least for this season. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Vikings do heading into next season, because there's a lot of questions whether or not they should draft a quarterback. Now they got Joshua Dobbs, who's going up against the Falcons, I believe, this week. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's jump into now the main part of the show. So I want to talk about last night's game, because I do think it was a very, very interesting game, to say the least. So the Titans had a chance late in the game to upset the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Will Levis throws an interception to linebacker Quan Alexander on the final pass of the game. Will Levis was slinging the ball around. I think he had more percentage of deep ball passes than short passes, which is absolutely incredible. And Kenny Pickett and the offense, I think at least, are still lacking consistent firepower and consistent success week in and week out. But they did get the win, and their defense definitely looked commanding throughout this entire game. Do you think the Steelers are officially true playoff contenders?
I think they are playoff contenders. They have a very, very good defense, and they aren't great on offense, that's for sure. They have one of the lowest points scored per game, and their passing game is they don't come up with a whole lot of yards, but they're tough. They have a great coach, and they seem to be able to run the ball well. One of the stats that surprised me last night was the Titans have Derrick Henry, and they have a good offensive line. The Steelers outrushed them 166 yards to 105. I think that had a factor in the game, that the Steelers were able to run the ball, and they had 326 yards of total offense. So I do think the Steelers are a playoff contending team, particularly in their division.
Well, yeah.
I think there's
Currently there are 3 teams in that division that are going to make it. It's Baltimore, who's leading the division. Pittsburgh, that's 1 game back. Then Cleveland, who's a game back or a half game back from Pittsburgh, and Cleveland and Cincinnati both have the same record of 4-3.
I see Cleveland with
gets a
quarterback
tiebreaker,
problems.
Well, right
Cleveland
now,
has quarterback problems.
Deshaun Watson is questionable to play in this game. This might be his actual comeback game after last week, it was last week or the week before, where he came in. He went like 1 for 5 for 5 yards and an interception or something like that, and then he had to be taken out. I believe that was against I could be wrong, but I think it was against the Colts in that game. Yeah, so that was 2 weeks ago, because I think PJ Walker played last week against the Seahawks. So that entire Deshaun Watson situation is a complete mess.
Yeah.
But for me, looking at the numbers here, Pittsburgh sitting at 5-3. The next highest team outside of their division would be the Jets at 4-3, as a potential 7 seed to another knockoff Cleveland, or to maybe one day surpass them based on this winning streak that they're on. So right now, Pittsburgh is I believe the 6th seed. I'm gonna say I don't know how well they'll do. If they do make the playoffs, they're a first round exit for sure, because this offense, it has been terrible, and I understand the defense, and I want to talk about just the defense's impact last game, right? So in the first game, Will Levis was, I think, pressured on 40-something% of his dropbacks, but he was throwing the ball downfield. There were a couple questionable calls, whether or not there was offensive pass interference on DeAndre Hopkins. There was a lot of weird calls in that game, and in this game, there were more weird calls, I guess you could say. There's a questionable roughing the passer. The Steelers in that first drive, I think they had 5 penalties or 6 penalties on that opening drive. So that's pretty bad. Will Levis last night was pressured on over 50% of his dropbacks. He was getting killed out there. And he actually performed pretty well. What I find interesting is that once again, his deep ball percentage surpassed a lot of other things. It was 28.2% of his dropbacks were deep ball throws. 28% of his throws were deep throws. That's 8% higher than his medium throws, so 10 to 19 yards. That was only 2% lower than his short throws, and nearly doubling his behind the line of scrimmage. So he is either keeping it short within the first down, or he's sending it deep. Generally,
I thought he played well.
No,
given all the pressure that was under, he's playing against a very good defense. I thought he played very well. He made one mistake. He had that interception, which was kind of a bad interception. He threw into double coverage.
But it was at the end of the game, so you guys just sending it to see if.
But he did get him down there into scoring position, right?
Yeah.
And they had a chance to win the game with less than a minute left. So. They threw the interception. That's unfortunate, but I do think he has high prospects. He played quite well, I thought.
Well, my problem with at the very end of the game was play calling. You had an opportunity to do what you did on, I think, a second down or a first down of just doing out routes to get to the out of bounds line. Instead, I think the last 2 passes or 2 of the 3 last passes were those up-the-seam throws to that tight end, to that wide receiver that's inside. One of them almost got picked, and then that second one did get picked. So that was my problem was the play calling. I mean, for me, I would just keep doing the keep it to the sideline, just get a quick out-of-bounds throw. Instead, you're trying to send it up the middle to really utilize Will Levis's arm strength, to utilize his arm talent, to try to make something work. And you kind of paid the price for it.
Yeah.
Because
did they have any timeouts left when the interception was thrown?
No.
I mean, they should have gone to the outside. They could have gotten closer. They still had 30 seconds left in the game.
No, it was much less than that. We're talking like 10 seconds.
10 seconds left when he threw the interception.
Yeah. It wasn't. I mean, it was the end of the game basically. That was, I think, the last play of the game. Tennessee right now does have the worst pass blocking line, pass backing line efficiency, even worse than the Jets, even worse than the Giants. I mean, this team has no offensive line, which I find actually pretty insane to say the least. That this team, with the amount of talent it has, D-Hop, we have Westbrook Akine, you have Derrick Henry, you have Tajay Sharp. I want to make sure I get his name right. You have a lot of talent on this team. And you can't. Tajay Spears, my fault. The offensive line is terrible, and that's what that's what was kind of obvious heading into the season. You got Skoronski, who we both thought should have gone in the first round, who I believe went in the first round. That was Tennessee's pick instead of a quarterback. Your offensive lineman got hurt. I think your backup tackle in this game got hurt. Nicholas Petit Frere, if I get that name wrong, I apologize. Your right tackle, he got hurt early in the game. Your center, your backup center played 7 snaps. I mean, a lot of moving pieces on the offensive line, and definitely TJ Watt definitely took advantage of that. He was very, very dominant in this game. You pressure, a brand new quarterback in his second career game. You pressure him 50% of the time. I think on average he's been pressured like 45, 48% of the time on his dropbacks. It's very, very hard to be successful, and especially with a team who is outgaining you on a position that they haven't done very well in, and that's running the football. I mean, also the Titans' defense, which a lot of people call underrated, that was getting cooked too, at least on the ground.
I think Levis continues to start after Tannehill gets healthy.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
They have a bye week. They have a bye week coming up, I think, and they'll give him more time to get accustomed to the offense there, and I think you'll see him start out of the bye week, not Tannehill.
I would agree with you, but I just think that Vrabel would give it to a veteran because I just think that that's kind of the way he wants to go. I agree with you, though. I would give it to Levis. I would 100% give the starting
We'll see
job
what
to
happens
Levis.
on that one. And one other thing I'd say about the Pittsburgh's offense. Do you think it's mostly Kenny Pickett is the issue with the offense?
I would say a slow start from Najee Harris early in the year.
He's playing well now.
He's playing well now. I would say the weakest link on that team is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Or at least on the offense is Kenny Pickett.
Dante Johnson is good, right?
Yeah,
and Pickens. So they have the good wide receivers. They have a good running game. They have a good running back.
They probably
So
should have been
is
close.
it Pickett is the issue?
I would say Kenny Pickett is the issue. They probably should have beaten the Titans by much more than they did because George Pickens, he had a bunch of room in the end zone and he couldn't bring both of his feet down in bounds. So this probably shouldn't have been as close as the score said it was. But I just think the Titans are not quite a playoff team. They're not that good. They're definitely not the 2021 first overall seed in the AFC South.
Stand their running game. It's not Derrick Henry. Is he over the hill now?
I mean, I would say Derrick Henry is still. I mean, they're play actioning more than as soon as Will Levis went in, like as the starter for the Titans. I mean, they did play action over 50% of the time in the first game, and in this game, their play action. I'll bring up the exact number right now. Was very high again. I'm shocked. Okay, it wasn't as high as I thought. We're talking about 25% of the time they were doing play action compared to 50.
Well, Derrick Henry only had 17 carries in the game.
Yeah. But, 75 yards, that's though it's 4.4 yards a carry.
I don't know why they didn't use him more.
When you're down, you can't get something going, especially behind a very, very bad offensive line. I would say
I guess that's it. It's not Derrick Henry, it's the offensive line.
The offensive line is absolutely abysmal. But I was shocked to see just how easy, Deontay Johnson was getting open and Jalen Warren, who was on my fantasy team. Deontay Johnson and Jalen Warren got me a lot of points so far this week. It's a good start to my week. And Najee Harris, who was, had a very, very poor start to the season. All three of those guys.
Touchdown last
night. He had a touchdown, yeah. 30 carries, 166 yards, 5.5 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Very, very difficult to win when you have running backs on the other side who are just eating up clock and eating up clock and eating up clock. Not only that, the Titans on third down were abysmal. 3 of 13. I don't know how many games you can win when you go 3 of 13 on third down. Very, very difficult to do. Meanwhile, Kenny Pickett and this offense went 6 of 12. 50% compared to under 25%. Very, very difficult to win. If you're a team that needs a lot of work, needs something to go right, and you're not quite good enough yet. I would say Will Levis, he's something. We both thought he's a top 4 pick, should have gone to the Colts. He's something. Now, can you surround him with the pieces that he needs? If the offensive line is going to be terrible, he's not going to be a world beater that could overcome a poor offensive line. So, I would say definitely keep him. He's better than Malik Willis. I would say right now, I would give him more reps over Ryan Tannehill because Ryan Tannehill was terrible through the first 7 weeks of the season. I would agree with you. It doesn't. I don't think it'll actually happen. I agree with you. Will Levis should now be the starter moving forward.
Why not? Then the chances of the playoffs aren't looking so good. Why not give him the experience now and get ready for next year? And maybe he's played well. He's played well. Maybe he can get you there. Maybe he's the spark that can get the team going, win some games there. I picked them last night. I thought they were going to win.
As did I. We both picked them, and it was we were wrong to say the least.
Yeah, but it went down to the final pass of the game. So,
all right. I think it's time to go to our next topic here. So let's get into some shocking, maybe if you thought so, some shocking-ish news. So turns out Josh McDaniels, once again, loses his job, not even completing 2 years. By the way, that's the first time in NFL history a head coach has coached twice and has not completed 2 years in either of his tenures with that team. So he got fired after a crushing loss against the Monday Night Football against the Detroit Lions, where Jimmy G looked terrible. The offense couldn't get going. Devontae Adams slamming his helmet in frustration. Well, they decided, we're done. Mark Davis decided, you know what? Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, we're done with you. You're done. So it turns out that now we're putting in linebackers coach Antonio, what's his name? Antonio Pierce, who actually, surprisingly, played for the Giants back in the day.
Yeah, I remember him.
So pretty interesting to say the least. So we're going to get into it, but it's something to see here with former Patriots staff and people under Belichick not succeeding. But I want to know, do you think, in retrospect, I guess, did Mark Davis make a mistake in hiring Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, I
as
said
Raiders
that
head
when he
coach?
first hired him. I said that he would not succeed as a head coach. I pointed that out right when he was hired. I said he wouldn't do well. He didn't do well last year. And his team was like they were asleep out there on that game. And that's a national televised game, So I think Davis, I understand he's been meeting with key team leaders to kind of check out the culture in the locker room. So this isn't something that just happened on the spur of the moment because they played poorly on Thursday night. Davis has been investigating things, and this was the final straw. He pulled the trigger and fired both those guys.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to jump right into it. People under Belichick have not worked anywhere else but the Patriots.
Oh, Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel was a player. What about a coach? What about anyone part of his staff? Brian Dable was there for a second, but he's probably more under a Sean McDermott.
Brian Flores. Brian Flores went to the Dolphins and did a good job. He did a good job down there. He got a raw deal down there. I think Brian Flores is a good coach.
I don't know. I'm not sure he did an okay job, but he didn't do anything spectacular. No one really under Belichick has worked. Josh McDaniels didn't work. Bill O'Brien had a half second of success with the Texans.
He made it. He got the playoff. He got them to the playoffs several times.
I said
not a half second.
Well, he had.
He got them there several years. Several years he was good there.
When you have the best receiver in the league, and you have what's his name?
You got a lot out of Deshaun Watson. So far, you aren't seeing that with Cleveland.
Well, it's difficult, when the league changes from when you left it to when you entered it. But overall, people under Belichick have not worked very well. And I think that's a testament to exactly who was, more to blame, or I guess who was a higher percentage of the success of the Patriots. And I think that goes back to Brady. Because you could get a player like, let's say Chris Hogan, who I believe went undrafted. You can get a Danny Amendola who was bounced around the league until he fell into New England. And even after that, he moved to a bunch of places after that. You could bring in guys and have them maybe to actually, this is a very viable piece for us. And Brady being, arguably the best player of all time, I would say definitely right now he's the best quarterback of all time. You can mask a lot of those failures, and that's exactly,
You don't think Josh McDaniels' offensive coordinator work helped at all?
I would say that combination of those two definitely helped. You can have a great scheme, but have bad players and have it not work. But if you have a quarterback who could...
Yeah, the offense was great when Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator, too. I would say that's more Brady because he's not done that great as an offensive coordinator with Mac Jones so far.
Right.
Although he hasn't had as many pieces as Brady had. Brady had a much better offensive line.
Well, he had Gronk, Hernandez.
Yeah, he had much better offensive line, too.
He was there at the very end of Randy Moss as well, but he wasn't an OC at the time. He definitely had better pieces, obviously. Some of the greatest pieces of all time. But I just think that, Josh McDaniel, by the way, I'm going to say this, I'm going to ask you that question before we continue. Gronk made a little bit of a statement. He expects I think it's next season. I don't think he was talking about this season, but next season, the Patriots either move Bill O'Brien to a different position or fire him and replace him with Josh McDaniels again. Could you see that actually being something that they do?
I do see that. And, I don't think this is going to happen, okay? Because I understand Bill Belichick has a long-term contract now. But if Kraft had a falling out with Belichick and they have a terrible rest of the season, Bill O'Brien head coach, McDaniel offensive coordinator. But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Well, you bring that up. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. The Commanders could trade for Bill Belichick next season.
The Commanders would trade for him?
The Commanders would trade a first-round pick, I assume, and maybe some other stuff to get Bill Belichick to be their head coach next season.
Huh.
So, and also you wouldn't have to give up anything. You wouldn't fire him. You would be getting something in return for.
I don't
for a
think the
coach?
Patriots are going to do that. They gave him a long-term contract, and I don't want him to leave the Patriots. So.
I know. Yeah. Well, this ain't about feelings. This is about facts. This is about hard-hitting. Truth and evidence.
Fact is, he's won
and rumors.
300 games.
He has won 300 games.
300 games, and he wants to get to 329.
It took him 5-6 games to get there. 5 games to get that.
Yeah.
That second.
Hopefully,
win.
he wins this weekend. Right? He has a good chance, I think, against the Commanders.
Well, we'll see. We'll make our picks. We'll see who we each have.
But what do you think's going to happen to Josh McDaniel? I mean, he's
going to
get it. He's getting a big buyout. He had a $60 million contract, right? So his buyout's probably going to be $25-30 million, right? So he doesn't have to work ever again. He can live off the interest on his $30 million. He'll pay some tax on that, but he's still going to have he's got millions already, right? Because he was
been
paid.
A coach for decades.
He's been a coach for decades and was making good money as the Patriots offensive coordinator. So what's he going to do? Do you think he quits football?
Well, I'll tell you right now, he's never getting another head coaching job in his career. I'll tell you, he's never getting another head coaching job. It doesn't matter if he comes in and coaches Tom Brady again, the next coming of Tom Brady. He's never going to get another head coaching job.
Do you think he quits? He's 47 years old.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't have a job, it's not like you're quitting. No one wants you.
No, but he might not want to go. Somebody's going to want him as an offensive coordinator. He's great.
Really, after 2 straight performances becoming a head coach.
Mac Jones played his best football under Josh Allen. Josh McDaniels.
Completely agree with you. But I'm saying this right now.
He actually got some mileage out of Cam Newton too.
He did.
So
he literally had
he's a creative offensive coordinator. He has a lot of creativity. He takes the pieces he has and he makes the most out of them. That's more than you can say for Bill O'Brien so far, or last year with
Matt Patricia and
Joe Judge. I mean, so I think that there's a good chance he's coming back.
Well, I would say you either need to move Bill O'Brien to other quarterback coach or put Josh McDaniels at quarterback coach, unless you want to do the whole thing with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and include Belichick in that, where just like last season you had 3 people dealing with the playbook, 3 people potentially calling offensive plays.
They won't do that again.
But what I'm saying is that unless you want to demote Bill O'Brien or move Josh McDaniels from OC to head coach to now become a quarterback coach or something like that.
They won't do that. He'll come back as the OC. That's his best position. Then you got to
demote Bill O'Brien.
Or get rid of him.
Get rid of him.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That possibly could happen, I think.
It's a very, very Bill Belichick-y move to bring back an old buddy like Josh McDaniels, put him in the offense. Yeah. But I would say it's not one of those moves like bringing in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, because we've seen success with the current quarterback of the New England Patriots, who had a lot of success underneath him as an OC. But the talent is still a problem. Maybe keep Bill O'Brien and have him as like an offensive scout or an offensive specialist, offensive talent specialist to find somebody.
Yeah, but Bill O'Brien will find a good job. There's no question that he could go back to Alabama. It'd be the OC there.
He might, but I think
I don't think he has any trouble finding another job if the Patriots want to get off him. I don't know what kind of deal they gave him. Probably a multi-year deal. They'd have to pay him something to leave. Maybe McDaniel goes to the front office somewhere. He could be in the front office. Somebody
is, outside of the Patriots.
Maybe he goes to college. Maybe he goes to college as a head coach. Might go to a college team.
Jim Harbaugh, Josh McDaniels.
I don't know. I think he has. I don't think if he wants to coach again, he certainly can coach. Not as a head football coach in the NFL. He probably could do it in college. He can go back to being OC. Many teams will be interested in him as an offensive coordinator. The Patriots should bring him back if they're going to stay with Mac Jones.
Well, I'm going to ask you this. What team would want Josh McDaniels on the staff after having 2 complete failures on 2 separate stints outside of the Patriots?
Because his first failure as a head coach, he went back to be a very successful offensive coordinator.
And then he went back to being a head coach. It was a failure again.
And so he can go back to being a successful offensive coordinator again.
But what team would want him?
I think many teams would want him. There's many teams that have poor offenses. Right?
I'm going to I don't think a lot of teams would want him.
He did well with a rookie quarterback. He did very well with a rookie quarterback.
I understand.
Maybe the Panthers would want him, for Bryce Young. Maybe the Titans would want him. Mike Vrabel knows him, right? So maybe the Titans would want him for Levis. I think there's a lot of teams that could be interested in him.
If you're going to fire Matt Canada, would you put Josh
Maybe
McDaniels as OC
I doubt
there?
the Colts will want him because remember he stiffed them. They hired him as head coach.
He was there for like 8 hours or something like that. And
I don't think they're going to want him.
I would say if you fire Matt Canada, I would say Frank Reich, I don't love as the head coach of the Panthers. I would say, and I'm going to talk about this later on the show, Frank Reich basically said, OC, you're going to call the plays. And we saw what Bryce Young looked like, and by the way, in their first and only win so far this season. What I would do is get off Frank Reich, promote the OC, put Josh McDaniels as the OC for the Panthers. So you have now the current OC of the Panthers as the head coach. Then you have Josh McDaniels, who developed a young quarterback in Mac Jones pretty well. He had his best season of his entire career, Mac Jones' rookie year. Help him develop Bryce Young. I would say that could work. But there are not so many jobs out there that outside of the Patriots that Josh McDaniels, I think, would have an offer for. Mm-hmm. It has to be very situational, or if you're the Patriots, you make the situation.
Yeah, well, he's not hurting for money. We know that. So
that is true.
Set for life,
he's not going to be making the $10 million a year or whatever he was making as the...
What do you think Brady thinks about him being fired with the Raiders? He's a part owner of the Raiders.
Do you think Mark Davis asked him about that? I wonder.
I wonder, but I don't think so.
Because he definitely asked Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams what they thought about it, and some of the veterans on that team, and they all thought it was time for a change.
I doubt that Brady would throw McDaniels under the bus, right? He's not going to say, "Oh, go fire him." I don't think.
Maybe not publicly, but to Mark Davis,
he
maybe.
might be a little upset about it. Yeah.
I mean, Brady's very loyal to people that were close to him. So I kind of agree with you. I don't think he stiffed them like that. But maybe privately he has just like maybe his last year with New England, his last year with Tampa. Maybe privately he's dealing with the. Come on, what are we doing? I'm a part owner of a team whose head coach is a bozo. He could be saying that privately to maybe a group of his friends. Who knows? But I kind of agree with you. I don't think Mark Davis would ask Brady, and Brady would respond, Josh McDaniels is terrible, you should fire him. I think that was more of a player decision. But Antonio Pierce also, what I find very funny is that one of the first moves, I don't know if it was Mark Davis or if it was Pierce, one of the first moves that was made was, Jimmy G, you're benched, Aiden O'Connell, you're the starter. I found that very fascinating.
We'll see what O'Connell does. He goes in and throws 4 interceptions and gets sacked 5 times.
Brian Hoyer's going to be out there.
Fumbles it twice.
It's against the Giants, so...
yeah, well, probably... Yeah, it could be a competitive game, I guess. Who is the Giants? Is Daniel Jones starting
Daniel
this week?
Jones is expected to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean... We'll make our picks. I think it's going to be very, very fascinating when we make our picks. But the problem is, I don't think... you can go from starting Aiden O'Connell, no matter what he does. Jimmy G, I think, would technically be the third-string quarterback. Can you put him in as a direct backup? I have no idea. But I'm not going to say Jimmy G played well. I'm not going to say he played great. I'm not going to say he played
Jimmy
okay.
G, man.
He got slaughtered. But I will add some context.
He played terrible in that game.
But you know what? I'm all about adding context here. I want to make sure I get the number right, so bear with me for a half second. In that game against the Lions, Jimmy G was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks. 6-0. So just adding a little bit of context, had no time to throw.
Right.
No time to throw.
When he did, he had some passes that were like missed by a mile.
Oh, yeah. No, it was very bad.
The one to Devontae Adams there, it was like he was wide open. He went way over his head.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
It's pretty bad. All right, so we're going to take a break here, but coming up, Tyreek Hill, for the first time so far in his career, he'll be facing his former team, the Kansas City Chiefs, in Germany. Also, America's Game of the Week, Cowboys versus Eagles. Dak Prescott, he's an Eagles slaughterer so far in his career. Will that continue this Sunday? And also, we make our Week 9 picks. And hopefully, I have once again a better week in my Harvey Hot Hand. We'll talk about that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. and find out who they're cooking with, where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. So, Tua Tagovailoa is set to face his former team, the Kansas City Chiefs, in Germany. This is the first time. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what's going to happen in this game. The Chiefs have a very, very young defensive secondary, but their defense has been the story so far this season. The game is on Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on NFL Network and Fubo TV. The Dolphins have the number 1 rated passing offense and rushing offense, while the Chiefs have the number 3 passing offense and passing defense. This is probably one of, if not the biggest game of the week, depending on, if you watch a lot of AFC, if this is your favorite team compared to the Eagles, Cowboys. I want to know, will the Dolphins upset the Chiefs in Frankfurt, Germany on Sunday?
A few interesting points here. This is the second time the NFL plays in Germany. It's only the second time. The Dolphins have never beaten Andy Reid.
Really?
That's an interesting stat, huh? They've never beaten him.
That's
Never beaten him.
Wow.
The Chiefs' defense is fifth, fewest yards and points per game. The Dolphins have the best offense in the league. We knew that. The Chiefs I think they need a second receiver to break out. I mean, they're relying too much on Travis Kelce. They haven't had anybody else really step up to be that second receiver. I think they were counting on the guy they got from the Giants, and he really has not been any good. And they have a rookie there that has been a little spotty. So, but yeah, he shows promise, but he's been spotty. Tua has 2,416 yards, best in the NFL with 18 TDs. So we got some serious star power here. And Tyreek Hill, 61 receptions for 1,014 yards, 16.6 yards per catch, and 8 TDs. Right? He's on an NFL record-breaking season, I think. Right?
Absolutely.
He's got 1,000 yards. His first receiver ever to have 1,000 yards after 8 weeks. And they're going to keep putting up big numbers with him. So I think he breaks all the records this year.
Wow.
So it's going to be a star-studded game with Mahomes playing quarterback for the Chiefs and Travis Kelce out there. Is Taylor Swift going to be at the game?
Taylor Swift is starting her tour.
She's not going to be there. They play better when she's there.
Travis Kelce doubles everything.
Yeah,
basically
I know.
When she's there.
Yeah. Well, so I think that the Chiefs will win the game.
Okay.
Principally based on the Chiefs defense, which I think will be able to hold the Dolphins somewhat in check. I don't think they'll be sacking Tua very often because he gets the ball out so fast, and I think they do that for 2 reasons. One, because it's an effective strategy, and 2, they don't want him to take a big hit and get a concussion again.
Right.
And I think that has a lot to do with that, how they've changed up their offense to be such a quick passing game. So I'm liking the Chiefs. I think it'll be a very close game. It's fun to be able to start watching it at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Leaves room to watch a lot of other games the rest of the day. You'll be able to watch 4 or 5 games on Sunday, right? You get the 9:30 one, you get the 1 o'clock, you get the 4 o'clock on the Sunday.
Basically right into
you
one.
you can go from 9:30 in the morning till midnight.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much. Watch 4 games, 4 full games.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I can do all that, but I'll probably watch most of them, I think. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think it'll be great. And I'm picking the Chiefs.
Well, I would say this may get the highest ratings that an NFL game has during the regular season, so far this season, because there's a lot at stake here. Because I think if the Dolphins win this game, I think they solidify themselves as probably the best team in the AFC. Record, maybe it doesn't make sense record-wise, but I think if you go up against Mahomes and the Chiefs and you outplay them and you're able to beat them, I think that says a couple things. I would say right now, Mike McDaniel, scheming-wise, offensively, is a better head coach than Andy Reid this season. Not all time, but this season. I would say Tua right now is a better quarterback than Mahomes. And I would say that offensive line was able to overcome a dominant pass rush that the Chiefs have. So I think those three things there. If the Dolphins win, I think that's what that will say. However, if the Dolphins lose this game, it's very, very telling of how the Dolphins season could end up. Because that would mean they are incapable of beating really, really good teams. Because so far this season, their 2 losses are against the Bills and against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Both 2 top teams in the NFL. The Chargers, that game was a 2-point win for the Dolphins on a very, very late touchdown. So they've beaten up on the Patriots. They've beaten up on the Panthers and the Giants. The Broncos, they beat by, looking at the number, I still can't believe it, 70-20. They beat the Broncos. And then they beat the Patriots again by 7. They probably should have lost that game if other Gesicki is able to, if Cole Strange is able to get a quarter of a yard, probably even less than that, but I digress. I'm going to say the Dolphins take this game. I'm saying the Dolphins win because I think this is a motivation game. I think this is going to be, Tyreek Hill is talking a lot of smack. He's giving the Chiefs a lot of bulletin board material. I would say, and it's going to be a very weird strategy for the Dolphins defense. Jalen Ramsey's back. I don't care if generally tight ends are covered by safeties and linebackers. I would put Jalen Ramsey on Travis Kelce all game. I would at least one-on-one cover him. If you need to double him, double him. But I would put Travis Kelce's primary defender as Jalen Ramsey, just because he is really he's the major offensive piece outside of Mahomes that the Chiefs offense has. He is unstoppable. You cannot play zone against Kelce because all he'll do, he'll have a defined route, and then he'll change his route if there's a wide zone open. He'll just flip around for a curl, and then Mahomes will hit him open. You need to put your best guy on Travis Kelce. I don't care what position is. I don't care. I really don't care. I don't care if generally linebackers and safeties cover tight ends. Put your best corner on the best offensive receiver, which in this case for the Chiefs is Travis Kelce. That is a way. I don't know if you're going to stop. That's how you're going to slow down the Chiefs.
We'll see what happens.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the Dolphins to keep up the pace. What I do think, it'll be very uncharacteristic for both teams. I think they'll run the ball much more than they have throughout the year. I just think that they're going to try something new, something special. I believe a Chain is still dealing with an injury. I might be wrong with that, but Raheem Mostert's not bad. Not bad. Tua, very mobile quarterback, although you have the concussion thing you have to worry about. I will say this, though. Steve Spagnuolo, I don't care if he blitzes. I don't care if he doesn't blitz. Tyreek Hill is the highest graded passer against the blitz so far this season. So he has contained the blitz, he has managed the blitz, and he has executed very well while getting blitzed. That can't be your answer to stopping Tua and this offense. I think the way Mike McDaniel does his motion offense is very, very difficult for a lot of teams to try to dissect. We saw it against the Patriots, Jack Jones and Jonathan Jones, the Jalen Waddle touchdown at the very end of that game. It was a simple send Tyreek out to the right. Jack Jones tried to follow him, no communication. Jonathan Jones picked him up and left Jalen Waddle as wide open as a receiver probably has ever had on a touchdown. You could literally crawl into the end zone at that point. So I think the motion is going to maybe confuse some of the younger Chiefs defensive backs, but that's something you have to look out for. I think both teams are going to run the ball more, but I'm calling late in the game. I don't think it's a part of my Harvey hot hand, but I think late in the game we'll see we're going to see a deep ball, a deep pass. I don't know if it's going to be to Tyreek Hill, but I think it's going to be a deep pass that are going to put the Dolphins up by maybe 4. And then you better hope if there's 30 or 45 seconds left and the Chiefs have 1 or 2 timeouts, that you could hold them for that 45-plus seconds, including the 2 timeouts. Because I think Mahomes is one of those quarterbacks. You give him 25, 30 seconds and a timeout or 2, he can get down 75 yards and maybe score, or at least kick up, set up.
Field goal wouldn't do him any good if they were down by 4.
But what I'm saying is that he's one of those quarterbacks that if you need a long drive late in the game to put up points with very, very little time and 1 or 2 timeouts or 0 timeouts, he can get you that yardage and he can get you those points.
Look what he did to the Bills in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Right.
They've never been the same.
No, they've never been the same since then. I agree.
So, I'm very nervous about picking the Dolphins, though, because they haven't beaten any good teams.
It's going to be a very close game.
They haven't beaten any good teams.
Yeah, well, Andy Reid's never lost to him. You didn't know that.
I find that very fascinating, Andy Reid. But, however, I will say this. I found this very, very fascinating. The Chiefs were celebrating something earlier this week. The Dolphins were already in Germany. Could we see what happened to the Bills and the Jaguars where you're a little bit jet-lagged in Germany? Plus, Mahomes is recovering from the flu that apparently, you think hindered him maybe.
He should have been. He should be over that by now.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. The jet lag. So they Chiefs are going over there late. The Dolphins have been there all week.
The Dolphins have been there, I think, for the entire week. The Chiefs are definitely
that's a
the
factor.
time.
I think that is a factor.
You get acclimated to the time.
We saw what happened to the Bills.
Right, exactly. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that affects the Chiefs, but I think, Mahomes is good enough that maybe, being a little bit tired at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time, I want to say that's 6-7 hours farther down the line in Germany. I don't know the exact time difference between, East Coast to the Germany time, whatever that time zone is. But I think being a little bit tired then.
7 or 8 hours earlier. Yeah, from us.
Wouldn't it be later? Because you're going east?
No, I'm sorry, later.
Yeah,
you're
so
right. Yeah, it's later.
That's what, it's a 4 o'clock game. So 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock game. I don't know. Mahomes, I think, is good enough that it's not going to affect him. However, I do have Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift not being there. I have that as a back piece.
Yeah.
We saw against the Broncos.
They need her at the game nowadays.
Rendered basically useless in that game. And also, Mahomes played very, very poor in that game against the Broncos. Like I said, hasn't scored a touchdown, or he didn't score a touchdown. That was the first time since December 5th of 2021, which ironically was against the Broncos as well. So, no Taylor Swift. The Chiefs leaving late for Germany. I'm hoping Mike McDaniel could draw up something special for Tua. Get that defense to stop Mahomes 1 or 2 times and let that offense flow very well. I got the Dolphins in a close win. Also, I found this very fascinating. This point spread was -4.5 earlier this week. It's now down to -1.5.
Yeah.
So people are putting money on the Dolphins to try to turn the point spread around. So I found it very, very fascinating. But we do have one more main topic, and this is what is labeled this week as America's Game of the Week: the Cowboys versus the Eagles. So the Cowboys are averaging 44 points a game with Dak Prescott as the starter in the last 3 starts against these Eagles. Dak's overall record against the Eagles is 8-3. He's been a Eagles eliminator, as one might say. But I want to know who comes out on top in your opinion. I think it's 4:25, 4 o'clock game on Fox in Sunday's game of the week.
I am picking the Eagles.
Eagles.
Yeah. I think both teams are Super Bowl contenders. Both have top 10 defenses. Both have top 15 offenses. Hurts is an MVP candidate. Micah Parsons is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. The Eagles got all-pro safety Kevin Byard at the trade deadline. The Cowboys didn't go for any trades. They're saving their money for Parsons and CeeDee Lamb for extended contracts. So I think that it's going to be a very close game, and I do think that the Eagles are going to win it because I see Dak Prescott making some mistakes.
I'm going to agree with you because, once again, in a big-time game, just like against the San Francisco 49ers, that was a big-time game, and he got absolutely annihilated. Sub 60% completion percentage, barely over 150 yards, 1 touchdown, and here's the kicker, 3 interceptions, 3 picks in that game.
3 picks in that game.
Now, while the Eagles aren't taking the ball away as much, I do think Jalen Carter on that defensive front, I think he was my defensive rookie of the year. Not only is he probably right now the favorite for defensive player of the year, he's a candidate for defensive player of the year, I think, in my mind. He is very, very dominant on that defensive front. The Eagles' defensive line has been great basically all season. And, of course, we have to bring this up. The offensive line for the Eagles, it's nearly, unbreakable. You have the tush-push or the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. Jalen Hurts, I'm a little bit concerned. We talked about this earlier on, in a couple shows ago. He's still dealing with that injury.
Yeah.
He looks hobbled. He doesn't answer questions about it. He says he's okay. He's not listed on any injury reports, even though it's blatantly obvious. When he runs, he's limping.
He's got a knee injury.
It's concerning, but he's able to play at a very high clip, even if he is injured.
Do you think their offensive coordinator is good for the Eagles?
I would say that having Shane Steichen definitely is a better option than the Eagles' current OC. Because, I mean, just look at the difference, from this season to last season. However, I think
their offense has been spotty.
I think the philosophy has changed, I would say. Because I think I would say that they were while they did run the ball a lot, I think passing was a big part of their game. Having the deep plays and having those explosive plays. That's very demoralizing for a lot of teams. You give up a 45, 50-yard touchdown pass, that's crushing. That's crushing. And even if you were, maybe the previous, one or two drives, you're able to stop them. Then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts throws to A.J. Brown for 45, 50 yards, and then they come back and score another deep pass, and they just keep pushing the ball downfield. It's crushing for you.
You think this is a bigger game for the Cowboys or the Eagles?
Cowboys, 100%. Because,
I agree.
Because this would others show that, because the past two games, Dak's been very, very good. Completion percentage-wise, I didn't love the game against actually, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. The past two games, completion percentage, 70% against the Chargers. That was a great win on, I think it was Monday night. And then 80% against the Rams. But you know what? I'm going to put that more on the defense. Matt Stafford looked confused, looked nervous. He had a horrible pick six. But Dak has been playing very, very well. He threw 4 touchdowns last week. This is probably the best 2-game stint that Dak Prescott has ever had, maybe in his career.
He's playing at a different level of competition now, though. When he played against the 49ers, he was lousy. Right? And now he's playing against the Eagles, who have one of the best defenses.
Right.
So we'll see.
I mean, I'm a little bit. Once again, I'm picking the Eagles. I picked the Eagles to win because I can't trust Dak Prescott in a big time game. Now I understand this is not like a Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night game, but this is labeled as America's Game of the Week. It's going to be nationally televised. I think this would be very. The spotlight is on Dak because they didn't make any moves. The running game still, I don't love. Tony Pollard is the feature back. You may have tried to push to get a running back, whether Derrick Henry was one of the major rumors for him to go to the Cowboys. So I don't love the fact that the Cowboys didn't make any moves. The running game's not right there. I would say
all the top teams made a move at the trade deadline and picked somebody up and got stronger, and the Cowboys didn't do it.
I'm gonna make a little bit of a prediction. If DeAndre Swift can't get going, the Eagles will be in danger. That's my prediction for this game. If DeAndre Swift has 12 carries for 45 to 55 yards, the Eagles will be down by about 6 to 8 points at that point in time. Whether that's the end of the game and they lose by 6 or 8, whatever the case may be. If DeAndre Swift has like 3.5 yards a carry, I think you're going to have problems there. You're going to have some problems there. Unless Jalen Hurts has 400 yards passing, then that doesn't make any sense. But if Jalen Hurts just has a game that he's been having throughout this season alone, where maybe A.J. Brown doesn't have an explosive game or Devontae Smith isn't as dominant or Dallas Goedert hasn't really got going so far this season. But if DeAndre Swift, 15 carries, 45, 50 yards, Eagles in danger. That's all I'm going to say. Eagles are in danger. I think it is time for, once again, we always do this every single week throughout the NFL season. We make our picks every single week. So actually, I want to start with you this time. So I want to get your picks going. We actually did much better than I think a lot of us were thinking last week. I think you had 10
What's
wins.
my record now?
I think you had 10 wins on your win-loss.
70 and 52.
70 and 52. I think that's 10 wins from the last time. I think I had like 13 wins. I think I did very, very well in the win-loss. The spread, there were a lot of X's for you. A lot of X's. I think you went.
I'm taking some big risks this week on the spread.
You are taking a couple big risks. So let's begin. Last night, we each took the major L on Thursday Night Football, but.
Oh, well. We just talked about the Chiefs and the Dolphins. I'm picking the Chiefs -1. The Falcons and the Vikings, I'm picking the Falcons. Tyler Heineke's going to start. I like the point spread, 4.5. I think the Vikings with Joshua Dobbs, who just got there Monday. So I think it's a game but 2 for him to get used to that offense. Justin Jefferson's still hurt. I think the Falcons are going to win. The Ravens and the Seahawks. I just think the Ravens are too tough, and I don't think they'll cover the point spread. I think the Seahawks have a decent defense, and Geno Smith is playing well. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Ravens are going to win. The Saints against the Bears. I think the Saints are going to win just because the Bears, that guy, their quarterback now, somebody I never heard of. He's not very good, man. He's
Tyler
poor.
Badgett or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Badgett, or whatever his name is. He really doesn't look good at all out there. Where is Justin Fields? Is he coming
still
back?
hurt.
Yeah. What's his injury?
Was it the dislocated thumb or was that
Oh,
Matt
right.
Stafford?
It's his hand, and I think the Saints are going to win, but I don't think they cover. I think it'll be a close game. The Saints aren't that good either, but I do think that the Saints will win, but I don't think they'll cover. Cleveland against St. Louis. I'm sorry, not St. Louis. It used to be the St. Louis Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals. I think Cleveland wins. Deshaun Watson back out there for maybe 3 plays, and then they go back to the other guy, P.J. Walker. I don't think they'll cover either. I think they'll win, but I don't think they'll cover. I think Tampa Bay will upset the Texans. I think the Texans they were playing well there for a while. They seem to have. I don't think they're playing very well right now, and I think that's going to continue. And I think that the Tampa Bay will beat them. I like the Patriots over the Commanders. I think they'll cover, but I think it will be a reasonably close game. The quarterback for the Commanders, Howell, is showing that he's got something. I mean, he's been sacked for over 40 times this year, and he still has some pretty good passing stats. Generally, the Patriots don't have much of a pass rush. They're really suffering from not having Judon in there. And now they've lost with wide receiver 1. Kendrick Bourne is out. But that'll give us a chance to see some of the young receivers. I hope that Booty plays.
Booty's number apparently has been called up.
All right.
He's good to go.
That's good. Hopefully they give him a few throws and see how he does, and throw the ball more to Douglas. I think those 2 guys are their up-and-coming guys. The rest of Parker, I think, is he going to play? He got his bell rung last week. He's out. So Schuster is only veteran receiver on the wideouts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be it could be a tough game for the Patriots. We'll see. I hope they win. I'd like to see them win at home. And then L.A. against Green Bay. Green Bay's favored by 3.5. I don't see it. I think L.A. is going to win that game. I don't think Green Bay's any good this year. They've only won 3 games, 3 games.
Green Bay. Well,
yeah.
I agree with you on picking L.A. Matt Stafford is game time decision. I think that could be why the Packers are favored. To answer your question, they're 2-5 so far. 2-5.
It's not very good. The Panthers, I think, will win their 2nd game in a row. Yeah, I got them beating the Colts. Guy the Minshew is playing reasonably well out there, but once they lost Richardson, I think that took a lot of wind out of the sails of the Colts. They're playing at the Panthers, and the Panthers won their first game last week. Gives them a lot of motivation, a lot of confidence. I think they'll find a way to win game number 2. Talked about the Eagles-Cowboys. I'm picking the Eagles. Raiders-Giants. This is being a game. Maybe it'll be another game of 15 to 20 punts for each team. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I'm picking the Raiders. They're favored by 1.5. They're putting that rookie quarterback in there. Daniel Jones is back. Saquon Barkley's playing. Probably the Giants. You know what? I'm probably wrong on this one. I think the Giants may find a way to win. But they're playing at the Raiders, so we'll see. Maybe the Raiders will rally from. They didn't like Josh McDaniel. Maybe that was a locker room thing, and now he's gone. That will spur them on. It's a lot of interesting intrigue in this game. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm picking the Raiders. Bengals and the Bills. I've got the Bengals -2. The Bengals are on a roll now, just like last year. They started slow, now they're rolling. And the Sunday night, and it's at the Bengals. Buffalo. Sputtering on offense some, and Josh Allen making mistakes in key moments. I think the Bengals are going to win. And the Jets and the Chargers, I like the Jets, plus 3.5. And I think the Jets are at home, and the Chargers, I think I don't think they're as good as they were billed earlier in the year. They've proved it. Their defense is not very good. I really think that Herbert is their main weapon, right? They lost Mike Williams, one of their best wide receivers. They have Eckert, right? Isn't he the running back? Yeah, he's good. And they still have Keenan Allen, right? He's on the wide out. So they still have some pieces. And on defense, they got some big names, but they haven't played well. So the Jets have a great defense. Zach Wilson has grown up a little bit, I think. He's not making the boneheaded plays that he was making earlier and this year and certainly last year when they tried to drum him out of town. But I like the Jets. And those are my picks, Nate.
When you handed me your pick, seeing the Jets beat the Chargers on a primetime game, that was probably the most shocking pick that you've had all week. So you also, what I find very fascinating is look at that left side. It's either mostly upsets or teams covering the spread but losing. That entire left
I've got
side.
most of the teams I have that are favored. I picked, but it's like the point spread.
The point spread, right.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to try to make my points. I'm going out on a limb on my point spread to try to get better than 60, 56, and 6. Huh?
You're 4 games from
4 games from 500.
Yeah, no, it's
So it's going to be an interesting week.
So, as you can see, I did a little bit better on the win-loss. I think I had like 13, 14 wins or something like that, 12, 13 wins. So I'm 77-45. That win-loss, which is very, very bad to start the year. Through the first 4 or 5 weeks, we were neck and neck. I've begun this separation a little bit.
That's gonna change this week.
Point spread wise, I'm 2 games up from you.
You picked the Giants.
Not very good.
I think I made a mistake.
I did pick the Giants. So let's begin. Last night was pretty rough for me. What? What'd you say?
We both lost last night.
Yeah, we both lost. It was pretty brutal. But Thursday, Titans. Will Levis had an opportunity. He threw a late game interception. So obviously, the Titans were not able to get the win and continue the Will Levis hype, at least for the time being. Next week, we'll have to wait and see whether or not Will Levis is the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. However, let's begin with Sunday's game, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to go to Germany. We got Germany, you got the Dolphins and the Chiefs. The Dolphins are underdogs in Germany. However, that point spread has been dropping every single day. It used to be 4.5 for the Chiefs. Now it's all the way down to 1.5 for the Chiefs, and I got the upset. I don't love the fact that the Dolphins haven't been able to beat any really, really good teams this season. However, I'm banking on the fact that Mahomes is coming off a very bad game against the Denver Broncos. Not only that, Taylor Swift won't be there to help out Travis Kelce be as good as he can be, and we've seen it. His numbers nearly double when Taylor Swift is in the audience. And not only that, the Dolphins have already been acclimated, or have been as acclimated as they possibly can be to go to Germany. They've been there much sooner than the Chiefs did. So I'm going with the Dolphins. I don't love the pick, however. I'm going out on a little bit of a limb here. I would say Mike McDaniel and Tua offensively outplay the Kansas City Chiefs. Next one, I got the Minnesota Vikings at the Atlanta Falcons. I'll take the Falcons here. Taylor Heineke is back starting for the Falcons, and he's going up against Josh Dobbs, who still does not have Justin Jefferson, so he doesn't have tremendous talent. However, Jordan Addison has been very, very good. T.J. Hawkinson has been very, very good. I don't love the pick, but I just think if we're going quarterback versus quarterback, I like Josh Dobbs, but he ain't all that. We saw what Taylor Heineke can do. He has a little bit of a magic to him. Drake London's out. I don't love the fact that Drake London's out. However, I think they'll focus on running the ball more. I think that's going to be key here for the Falcons to get this win, and I do think they get the win and cover the minus 3.5 point spread. Not only that, Seahawks at Ravens. This one's a little bit of an interesting pick because of the fact that the Ravens are 5.5 point favorites against the Seahawks. Now, I think the Ravens are a top 3 team in the AFC. And so I'm going to say they take the win here. I'd say they beat the Seahawks and cover the minus 5.5 point spread. This offense has been insane. Lamar Jackson has been absolutely incredible so far this season. I think it's going to be very, very telling to see where the Ravens can end up if they go out against the Seahawks, who have JSN on offense, who have DK Metcalf, who have Tyler Lockett, who have Geno Smith playing as efficiently and as effectively as he has in the past couple of years. I would say if they go out and dominate against the Seahawks and that defense, I would say the Ravens are right up there and could be they would solidify themselves as Super Bowl contenders. The next one, I got the Bears at the Saints. I got the Saints winning. However, the Bears do cover. Now, the Saints just had a great dominant win last week, and I don't think they followed it up with a dominant win, but I do think they get the win. I just feel like the Bears, they have some sort of weird vibes with this new quarterback where he kept the game close in his first start, and then in the next one, or when he came in, he kept the game close. And then in that start against, I believe it was the Chargers, there was no answers for Justin Herbert in that offense. I think it's going to be more similar to that first game that he played in rather than the game against the Chargers. So I'll take the Saints to win. However, the Bears do cover that 8.5-point spread. The next one, the Cardinals at the Browns. Clayton Tune is going to be the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. While Kyler Murray is traveling, he will be questionable for this game. There is a chance I think he could play, but so far, Clayton Tune is the quarterback one for the Arizona Cardinals, going up against potentially Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. For me, the reason why the Browns are going to cover the spread here is because of that defense. If Clayton Tune does play, he's going to be seeing ghosts. He's not going to know where to throw the ball. I think he's going to get sacked probably 4 or 5 times in this game. I do think the Browns get a very, very dominant win and cover the minus 8.5-point spread. The next one, Bucks at Texans. I think the Texans get back on track here with the win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield in the past couple of games, that game against the Bills should not have been as close as it was. It shouldn't have been up to a Hail Mary whether or not the Bucks somehow win the game or if the Bills hold on to that game. I think C.J. Stroud is going to get into a rhythm here against the Bucs defense. I think Baker Mayfield's going to probably throw 1 or 2 interceptions, or he just might have 3 turnovers, including a fumble. I'm not exactly sure, but I think Baker Mayfield will not be at the top of his game against the Texans. I understand Dameon Pierce is out. I understand Robert Woods is out. However, I think with Nico Collins, I think that's the big one. Nico Collins and the rest of that offense, I think C.J. Stroud will be able to get it done against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The next one, Commanders and Patriots. I got the Commanders. I do not think the Patriots will win. We just saw what this Commanders team did against the Eagles twice. And now going up against a Patriots team who Mac Jones just lost his number 1 security blanket, Kendrick Bourne, for the year. They haven't been able to run the ball all year really effectively. The past 3 games, they've been able to run it better, but still have not been able to run it at the clip that I'm sure Mac Jones and that offense would like to run it at. I think Sam Howell, while he gets pressured basically on nearly every single possession that he ever has, he's the most sacked quarterback in the league, he has been able to perform at a very, very high level even when getting obliterated by defenses. And I think that's very, very telling for how, sturdy and how stable this offense can be. At least me, I thought the Commanders team would be, the Commanders would be for that number 1 overall pick trying to draft a quarterback. I'm going to say I'm wrong. This Commanders team is somewhat viable, especially with the Giants being the dumpster fire that they are so far this season. So I think the Commanders get a relatively close win, but they do upset the Patriots. I got them winning outright and obviously covering the plus 3-point spread. The next one, Rams at Packers. I was gonna say I could put this as a conditional pick. If Matthew Stafford plays, I'll pick the Rams. If Brett Ripien plays, I'll pick the Packers. But I just think the way Jordan Love has been playing, it's been absolutely terrible, I would say. Low completion percentage, high turnover, very, very recently. He started off the season very well, but recently, high turnovers, low touchdowns, very, very low completion percentage. I think the Rams will get this done. You just got to dish it off to Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua or Tutu Atwell. Run the ball. I think the Rams' offense is going to be surprising in this game. I think this is a little bit of a bounce-back game. And if Matt Stafford does play, I already said he had his terrible game against the Cowboys and ended up getting hurt. What I've been saying for the past year and a half so far is that Matt Stafford has been consistently inconsistent, which means he has a down game. I guarantee you, if he does play this game, he'll have probably 250 to 275 yards and a couple touchdowns, and the Rams will win this game pretty handily. The next one, the Colts at the Panthers. I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to pick the Panthers to win and beat the Colts out. Then this is the primary reason I'm going to talk about it for my Harvey hot hand. Frank Reich did something that I don't think a lot of head coaches who have a little bit of an ego would do. He gave up his offensive play calling power to his OC, and I think that is absolutely huge because of the fact that this offense that the Panthers had was pretty bad. They couldn't get anything going. They were not putting up a lot of points. They were not able to win a lot of games. You give up your offensive play calling to your OC Thomas Brown, and instantly you get a win. I find that pretty fascinating. Now, you didn't score a lot, and you scored the third fewest points that you've scored so far this season, but you still got to win. You were able to win. And your defense played very, very well, shutting the Texans down, only allowing them to score 13 total points in that game. So I'll take the Colts to lose this game, the Panthers to win outright, and obviously cover the plus 2.5 point spread. The next one, Cowboys and Eagles. We talked about this earlier on in the show. Dak Prescott, in a high-intensity moment, is known to fail, and I'll say he'll fail once again. Jalen Hurts, while he's playing hurt, he has been able to play pretty well, even injured. A.J. Brown, probably one of the best receivers so far in the league, if not the best currently, especially with Justin Jefferson out. You have Devontae Smith, a very, very viable, very, very good wide receiver too. I think he could be a wide receiver 1 on many teams. You have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. You have the best offensive line, arguably, in the NFL. I would put him at 1 or 2. And you have probably the most unstoppable play in NFL history, the tush push or the brotherly shove. So I would say the Eagles, they get a pretty good win. They cover the point spread and win. I think this is I was going to say, yeah, this is a part of my Harvey hot end. I'll give the score later, but I do think the Eagles win and cover the -3 point spread. The next one, Giants at Raiders. I think for the Raiders, there's too many moving parts. New quarterback, new coach, new OC. You fired your GM. You fired your head coach. There's too many moving parts here, and Aiden O'Connell in his first start looked pretty bad. Brian Hoyer, I don't think he looked good either in his start. So it's really if you're either going to keep Jimmy G in there or if you're going to go with 2 not so great quarterbacks, and one of them is a rookie. But I'm going to give it to Daniel Jones. He's coming back. Saquon Barkley, after carrying the ball 34 times, he was a little bit banged up in practice. I'm sure he'll play. Andrew Thomas says he feels good. He might be back. I'll take the Giants to upset the Raiders and obviously cover the 1.5 point spread. If Daniel Jones is back, and someone in our comment section for this stream even said, Tyrod Taylor is far better than DJ, because that was my take on it, this game will prove it. If Daniel Jones comes in here and completely plays horrible, well, then we'll have our answer. Tyrod Taylor so far this season was better than Daniel Jones. But if he tears it up, well, maybe I will be wrong. I'll accept that. But I do think the Giants win no matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the situation is. I do think the Giants will win and obviously cover the plus 1.5 point spread. The next one, Sunday Night Football, Bills at Bengals. Just like last season, I'm taking the Bengals as well. The Bengals, they're on the upturn, while the Bills, I'm afraid, might be on a little bit of a downtrend here. I already shut the Bills' Super Bowl window pretty close, steel door, locked it up with 18 different locks, put bodyguards on that door. The Bills are not coming through that Super Bowl door anymore. The Bengals, on the other hand, they're a consistent playoff team, a consistent AFC championship team. They absolutely dominated the Bills in the playoffs. The Bills had no answers for anything the Bengals did, and I think that's going to appear once again on Sunday Night Football. It's a -1.5 point spread. I'm shocked that it is this low, but I think it's just because Joe Burrow through the first 5 or 6 games looked absolutely terrible, and right now, I mean, Joe Burrow's just coming off of a performance where he torched the 49ers defense. He played he ran the ball himself very well, which is surprising, healing from that injury. He was tearing it up passing-wise. I mean, the Bengals defense was doing a great job trying to slow down Brock Purdy and allowing them to only put up 17 points against him. I would say Josh Allen, like you said, he makes some big-time mistakes and big-time moments. I will take the Bengals to win and cover the -1.5 point spread. And finally, Monday Night Football, we got the Chargers and the Jets. And just because it's the Jets, I'm picking the Chargers. Justin Herbert versus Zach Wilson. If you're not entirely sure which game to pick, generally you're okay to pick the team with the better quarterback. In this case, Justin Herbert is miles in front of Zach Wilson. Keenan Allen versus Garrett Wilson. You argue that all you want. Quentin Johnson as a wide receiver too against Alan Lazard or Randall Cobb or whoever else you got at wide receiver too. You could debate that as well. Breece Hall versus Austin Eckler. That's an interesting one. I'm going to give it to Breece Hall. Austin Eckler running the ball has not been that great this season. So far throughout his career, hasn't been all that dominant running the ball. He's a much better receiving back than running the football, but I do think the Chargers do get the win here and cover the -3.5 point spread on the road. And that wraps up our picks for week number 9. I think this is going to be a very, very good week. This might be one of the best weeks of football. There's a lot of great games on. I think that Ravens-Seahawks game is an underdog pick for people watching games. Obviously, you have the Chiefs-Dolphins. You have the Cowboys-Eagles. I think Sunday night, you literally have to go from 9:30 to a 4 o'clock game to Sunday Night Football. Those 3 games are insanely I think they're going to be insanely enjoyable to watch.
I'm going to have fun watching the Dolphins and the Chiefs, and the Patriots and the Commanders, and
They're
then
going to get smoked.
And then the Cowboys and the Eagles, and then the Bengals and the Bills. I think that's a lot of football to watch, huh?
It's a jam-packed weekend, so it's going to be very, very
We
fascinating.
differ on 4 games, Nate. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be very this week. Because we differ only on 4. It's very, very hard for you to overtake me or
I won't overtake you this week.
gain some ground. Actually,
there's
spread
still
wise,
a lot of season left.
Spread-wise.
A lot of season left.
Spread wise, you could do a number on me.
No.
Because look at your spread on the left
Either
side.
that or
that left column is
I
basically
could go
empty.
under 500. I'm only 4 games up right now.
You're playing a very, very risky game this week with your point spreads, but generally those high point spreads, it's generally safer to bet those. Is it time for some Harvey Hot Hand? I believe it is. So,
okay.
If for those who don't know, as always, the Harvey Hot Hand is where I pick the 5 teams that you should bet on every single week. My record is still above 500. However, we had a pretty bad week 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. We went 1-4 in subsequent weeks, and now we're gaining back that momentum. We're 2-1 last week, and hopefully this week we get back on track. And let's start off with our first pick of the week.
Cardinals at Browns.
Cardinals at Browns. And this point spread has moved since I made this graphic. It is now about -9.5 to -10. At least in this context and the score that I'm giving it, it doesn't matter because I have the Browns winning by 11. The Browns, I don't care who the quarterback is. If you're playing Clayton Tune, I don't think the Cardinals are really going to be in harmony or in sync here, strictly because it's Clayton Tune. Josh Dobbs, that trade made sense for the Vikings, and I guess it made sense for the Cardinals, especially with Kyler Murray coming back. Now, if Kyler Murray makes a miraculous appearance in this game, he's questionable for this week. I'm going to be very, very nervous in maintaining this pick. However, I think no matter who the quarterback is for the Browns, I think this will be a defensive performance, as you could tell by the score. Strictly because I think Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray, whoever it is, they're going to be contained in the pocket. I think they're going to get sacked a number of times. Myles Garrett's going to have an absolute field day against the Arizona Cardinals. I'll have the Browns covering the -8.5 or -9 or whatever the point spread is right now, -10. I'll have the Browns covering the point spread and winning 24-13.
Colts at Panthers.
Colts at Panthers. This is very, very interesting. Frank Reich gave up offensive play calling to his OC, Thomas Brown. That was very, very telling because instantly the Panthers get a win. Now, could it be just because it was the Houston Texans versus C.J. Stroud? I'm not entirely sure. I think this game will be very telling, but I do think that Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers will get their second win in a row because I think Gardner Minshew, while he's been playing okay, he's definitely not all that, could he be one of the 32 starters in the NFL? I'm not entirely sure. He's sort of being forced to be that because Anthony Richardson got hurt. I don't think he's been playing very well. I think Bryce Young and this Panthers team gets another win, and I have the Panthers upsetting the Colts and winning 27-23 and winning outright, obviously covering the +2.5 point spread. The third pick.
Cowboys at Eagles.
This one is very, very risky because it's a low point spread, but I'm choosing the Eagles. If you take a look at it, if you're to list the top 10 players on either team and compile them, you could probably argue that the Eagles have 7 to 8, 6 to 8 better players than the Cowboys do. If you rank it, I would say in that top 10 list, you'd have 6 to 8 Eagles to throw at 4 to 2 Cowboys on that list. I think the Eagles are a more dominant, more dynamic team. They have the best offensive line, the most unstoppable play. They have a better wide receiver 1 and 2 combo than the Cowboys have. Jalen Hurts, I would say he's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Their defense, I would say it's very, very close, but I might give the slight edge to the Dallas Cowboys. But Jalen Carter in that defensive front, I mean, he's going for Defensive Player of the Year and maybe Defensive Rookie of the Year. I would say he probably is right out leading a Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I got the Eagles winning. America's Game of the Week on Fox, 4 p.m. Eastern. I got the Eagles winning 34-28, covering the -3 point spread.
Giants at Raiders.
This one, I was told Daniel Jones is the answer for the Giants. Not only that, he's a top 10 quarterback. He's making $40 million a year. He's coming back from a neck injury. I think the Giants do get the win here. I think it'll be a somewhat ugly and obviously low-scoring matchup between a Raiders team that, like I said, too many moving parts. Brand new head coach, brand new GM, you have a brand new OC, brand new starting quarterback. There's a lot of moving parts here that I'm not exactly sure you could win from the jump. So I'll take the Giants to take advantage of that also. Jimmy G in that game against the Lions that got basically the entire Raiders staff removed, OC, head coach, and GM. I would say that, he got pressure on 60% of his dropbacks against the Lions defense that couldn't stop Lamar Jackson for the life of him. So I think the Kayvon Thibodeau and the Giants team, I'll bring up a number right now that I find very, very fascinating, because it tells just how good the Giants defense has been recently. So in the last 3 weeks, they're first in offensive, their opponent points per game, in opponent's total yards per game. They're fourth, sixth in opponent pass yards per game, eighth in opponent rush yards per game, tied for third in sacks. This Giants defense has been shutting down teams in the past 3 weeks, and I think they do that again, so much so that Daniel Jones doesn't need to really do much. I would say the Giants win outright and obviously cover the 1.5 point spread. They win 20-17. And finally,
Bills at Bengals.
I think this one's going to be very, very fascinating because the Bengals are on the upturn and the Bills could be on a little bit of a downturn. Joe Burrow just absolutely dominated and tore through the 49ers defense, and the Bengals defense was able to slow down and ultimately stop Brock Purdy, forcing him into a couple horrible plays and a couple very, very bad turnovers. The Bills right now, they were this close to losing to Baker Mayfield on a Hail Mary throw, which maybe they never call it, but there were about 8 guys that were being penalized or should have been penalized on the Bills on that Hail Mary throw. But I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals get it done against the Bills here on Sunday Night Football. I think they're the better team, obviously, and I think they're on the upturn right now. And if they win this, they have a very, very good shot taking over the AFC North. And I think it's going to be very fascinating to see where they turn up, because I think if they win this game, they put themselves in a company of maybe 3 or 4 other teams, with the Chiefs, themselves, the Bengals, the Ravens, and I would say the Jacksonville Jaguars are part of that top 4 team in the AFC. But that is my Harvey Hot Hand. So what we got going, we got Browns -8.5 or -10 in some places. I got Carolina +2.5, Philadelphia -3. I got the Giants at +1.5, and I got Cincinnati -1.5. Those are my Harvey Hot Hand picks.
Good luck, Nate.
Good luck. You don't like them?
I think, you picked some tough ones there. I think the Eagles-Cowboys game there, that could be a very close game. But, and you pick the Giants over the Raiders when the Raiders are favored.
Too many moving parts.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I pick up 4 games on you this week, but I doubt it.
I'm hoping I get back in the win column and win a week again from a Harvey Hot End.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult this week. But we'll obviously have to see. This is a very, very long show, but very, very good. We also got some basketball tonight. We got the Knicks. I believe the Celtics play tonight as well. The in-season, I think this might be the in-season tournament.
How about the Celtics so far, huh? They're just wiping out every team they play.
Yeah, no, they've been absolutely incredible. Let's get a couple score updates. So right now, this is the in-season tournament. I forgot about this. This is the start of the in-season tournaments. The Knicks right now are tied with the Milwaukee Bucks, 16 apiece. Let's see who's having a good performance in there. We got Giannis obviously scoring 6 points, and then Julius Randle and Quentin Grimes each leading the Knicks' way with 6 points apiece. I believe the Celtics may play tonight. Oh, sorry, they play tomorrow. They play 8 p.m. against the Brooklyn Nets. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be a pretty good game. We'll see if the Celtics
at the Nets?
At Nets. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game. See if the Celtics can keep up their dominant run. They just put up 155 points against the Indiana Pacers, which is interesting. But just a quick look at the NBA standings real quick. Dallas is undefeated in the West. We both thought that they wouldn't be a good team. Boston's first in the East. Undefeated as well. Memphis, 0-5.
Yeah.
And as I think should be expected, Miami is the worst in the East. They're 1-4. They don't score any points because they don't have playmakers. And Jimmy,
they lost a lot in the offseason.
Once again, they're one of the lowest scoring teams in the NBA, 26 out of 30.
Yeah.
People should
not
be
Milwaukee?
surprised.
What's Milwaukee's record?
Milwaukee currently is tied for 5th at 2-3.
2-2.
2-2.
That's surprising.
They team-wise, their defense is horrible. 28 out of 30 for opponent points per game, and they're 10th in scoring, 10 out of 30.
Oh, they have Damian Lillard. He was going to be the answer.
He's had a couple good. He had a very, very bad game. I have him on my fantasy team. He had one horrible game that made me want to rip my eyes out. But
the Lakers, how are they doing?
Lakers so far this season, they are tied for 5th at 3-2. They had a good win recently. Victor Wembanyama the best prospect since LeBron, or maybe a better prospect than LeBron. 38-10 last night. 38-10 against the Suns.
And what's their record, the Spurs?
The Spurs are tied for 5th with 3-2.
Huh? And the Warriors?
The Warriors are second at 4-1.
4-1.
I think we got to do a topic about the Warriors coming up because Draymond Green talked about it. As expected, the culture, the mood in that locker room,
much better.
And based on the record, has changed drastically.
And they've had some road games, right?
They have had a couple road games.
They were horrible on the road last year.
I think they started 0-7 or maybe even worse than that.
Spurs? I mean, not the Spurs, the Suns.
The Suns, by the way, the Warriors are 2-0 on the road with one big win over the Kings on the road. The Suns, you said?
Yeah.
The Suns are tied for 11th, 2-3. Tied with Portland and Utah. The Kings, they're tied for 9th at 2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
Well,
Fox is hurt, I heard.
Fox was dealing with an injury. The Warriors won, I think, last night or the night before. Fox was hurt in that game. So, it's early in the NBA season, but there's some shocking things coming out. The Warriors are very good again. Dallas is at the top of the West. The Celtics, as expected, are at the top of the East. Milwaukee took a little bit of a ding.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Drew Holiday, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Defensively, the Celtics, I forgot to give you the numbers. 1st in scoring, 8th in defense. And, 6th in defensive rating.
Yeah.
But 8th
they played a
in
couple of
opponent
weak
points per game.
teams, though. They played Charlotte, right? They played the Wizards.
They crushed Charlotte.
The Wizards, the Pacers.
They did not play Charlotte. They played.
They played the Wizards.
Wizards.
It was the Wizards and the Pacers.
They played the Knicks, Heat, Wizards, and Pacers.
Yeah.
That Heat game was probably. I think that was easily their best win so far.
Yeah. He played well in that game.
Because they were down for a portion of that game. Derek White had a great end to that game. I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. So the Celtics' first in-season tournament game that gets played in a week from now against the Knicks. Against the Nets. Against the Nets. Then they go a week after that, play the Raptors. That's their next in-season tournament game. I don't know. This in-season tournament, I think it's pretty interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so I think we're going to wrap it up there. As always, on Tuesday, we'll be recapping other NBA news, NFL news, recapping a bunch of games that happened over the weekend. Will Mac Jones be replaced? I think that's still a conversation that might need to be had, potentially. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Stephen Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.